Hi everyone, greetings from Lithuania. My name is Patricija and I am an apprentice of Asheville Vedic Astrology. Currently in the practicum year, and one of the tasks for this year is to record 1 hour video lectures, choosing a topic from what I was learning. I decided to explore the Rashis. So in this first 1 hour video, I will be exploring the first 4 Rashis: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. Also, for those who are unfamiliar with the word Rashi, Rashis, that is synonymous for sign, zodiac sign in Sanskrit language. So let's begin with the first Rashi, Aries. And we will begin by exploring Aries Rashi based on the description from Brihat Parasara Hora Sastra. Aries described: the sign Aries is blood red in complexion. It has a prominent, big physique. It is a quadruped sign and strong during night. It denotes courage. It resides in the east and is related to kings. It wanders in hills and predominates in Rajaguna. Is the second of the 3 constituent qualities and is the cause of great activity in living beings. It rises with its back and is fiery. Its ruler is Mars. So now what we will do is take each sentence and analyze it separately. Beginning with the first sentence. The sign Aries is blood red in complexion. I highlighted the blood red in the color red to emphasize it even more. And when you think about blood, it's important to understand its function. So the blood carries oxygen and nutrients throughout our bodies. The physical body couldn't exist without oxygen and nutrients. This means that blood equals life. And now from this symbol, life, here are some of the characteristics that we can discover about Aries. First of all, enthusiastic. So when we want to live, when we appreciate life, there's also enthusiasm about it. Also enlivening. So when someone wants to live and is thrilled about living, they can enliven others. Passionate. The desire of living is already a passion. Brave. In order to live life to the fullest, one has to be brave. Impulsive. Well, whenever there's a lot of passion, enthusiasm, desire to live, it's quite possible to make decisions or act impulsively. And lastly, active. When we want to live, we are active. We take initiative. We take the steps towards accomplishing, realizing, experiencing something. So Aries has the characteristics of being enthusiastic, enlivening, passionate, brave, impulsive, and active. In addition, Aries is the first sign. Thus, it symbolizes a new beginning or a birth of another life. In a birth chart, Aries shows how one deals and feels about new beginnings, a birth of a new reality. And then additional characteristic is generating creative ideas. And this ties with the previous analysis that the Aries is the first zodiac sign and it's related to new beginnings. A new beginning requires a creative idea first, and then something can be born. Anytime someone has a healthy, dominant Aries Rashi in their birth chart, they will be full of creative ideas, full of ideas for potential realities to be born. Okay, the next sentence. It has a prominent, big physique. It is a quadruped sign. Now, Aries can give a bigger body if we look at this sentence from a literal standpoint. And depending on the house placement, it makes the body part bigger, which is related to the house. For example, Aries in the third house might produce huge hands because the third house is related to the hands. Also, we can look at this from a different perspective, which is that Aries Rashi can give a prominent presence. So someone again with a dominant, healthy Aries energy, especially Sun in Aries, when they come into the room full of people, they will have a prominent presence. They will usually demand attention, feel comfortable to be in the center of attention, and they will just be prominent, visible. And then it is a quadruped sign. So this is speaking about Aries Rashi being a representative of animal or mammal's consciousness. Therefore, it is instinctual, primal, raw, simple, rough, enduring, and strong. So again, someone with a prominent Aries energy in their chart will most likely act based on their instincts. And it's very possible that their communication or their behavior would be raw, without much of mannerisms, tact, refinement, and things of that nature. It resides in the East and is related to kings. So let's start with the first part of the sentence. The sun rises in the East. Aries is like the rising sun, which means that it is good at initiating a new start, right? So when the sun is rising, it's starting a new day, or we can say initiating a new start. So Aries is like that. Now the second part of the sentence. So a king is an authority. This means that Aries has an authoritative energy. It listens to no one but itself. When we are talking about the symbol of the king, authority, in order to have that within ourselves, we have to trust ourselves. Trust that we can rely. And this leads to Aries being a sign of independence and strength of character. Also, Aries can give authoritative positions and guide towards being number one. So again, someone with a dominant Aries energy will not be happy to be just another member of the team, equal to everyone. Instead, that person will strive to be the best, to be the leader, to be the king. It wanders in hills and predominates in Rajaguna, beginning with it wanders in hills. So hills are places where not many people could be found. This means that Aries prefers to spend time alone, or in other words, Aries is a solo player. And the word wanders indicates a curious nature of Aries that seeks to explore the unknown. Now, speaking about Rajaguna, first we have to understand what guna means. So guna, translated from Sanskrit language into English, means quality or quality of action, tendency, motivation. And Rajas is one of the three gunas, representing a quality of action that is based on the attachment to the ego or to the idea of the I. Thus, the quality of action of Rajaguna is selfish, egocentric, ambitious, pleasure-seeking, and very active. Whenever I think about Rajaguna, I imagine an energy within a human being which makes them believe that they are the doer. And because they are the doer, there's a lot of ambition and activity in the energy to strive, to do, to be the doer. But also, it has the quality of being egocentric and selfish. It rises with its bag and is fiery. When a Rashi rises with its bag, it means that it is inauspicious. The word inauspicious means unlucky, unfavorable, or unpleasant. This means that the soil of Aries Rashi is challenging, difficult, and pushing out of the comfort zone. So again, if someone has a dominant Aries Rashi energy in their birth chart, they shouldn't expect life to be simple and easy. Instead, life will push them and challenge them so they could grow stronger. Now, talking about the fiery aspect. This means that Aries belongs to the fire element. Fire can produce light, warmth, and burn or purify. The light is a symbol of clarity, clarity of the mind, of seeing. Warmth signifies becoming warm through physical activity or strong emotions like anger, as well as making others warm through laughter, practices, rituals, and exercising. This is why Aries Rashi can be quite important for people who specialize in training others, coaching others, guiding through some sort of practices. And the burning aspect of the fire element indicates a destructive energy as well as a cleansing one. Its ruler is Mars. So here I listed 4 fundamental factors about a planet in general, and we will discuss that through the perspective of Mars. So Mars is a starry planet. In other words, it looks like a star in the sky, right? When you look into the sky, you can't see Mars fully as a planet. It looks like a star. The starry planets help us gain skills and develop various attributes of self. The sun and the moon, which are the luminous planets related to the self, wouldn't look so spectacular without all of the stars. So Mars is a starry planet, and it deals with gaining skills, developing various attributes of self. And what could that be? Well, Mars is related to courage, bravery, taking initiative, strength of character. So these are some of the things that Aries Rashi, through the lordship of Mars, gives. The form of Mars is quadruped. Thus, the energy of Mars is related to survival, especially sudden survival situations. So this is what Aries Rashi is related to, sudden survival situations. Now, Mars looks up. This is a symbol. Every planet has a specific site. Mars looks up. And this tells of a tendency to see the possibilities, solutions, and seek for inspiration for something greater than oneself. Mars is a dry planet, thus it doesn't need comfort or admiration. Also, due to this quality, Mars can be direct, focused, sharp, commanding, and even cruel. So this ties in with what I was sharing before, that Aries can be primal, raw, tough. The lordship of Mars is emphasizing that even more. Now, let's move on to explore Aries Rashi through a different source, and that is based on the description from Yavanajataka. The first sign is traditionally said to have the shape of a ram. It is called by the ancients the head of Kala. Its places are the paths of goats and sheep, caves, mountains, hideouts of thieves, and places there are fire, metals, mines, and jewels. Once again, we will dissect this description into separate sentences and analyze each. The first is said to have a shape of a ram. And here I have a video which captures 2 rams. And let's see, what can we learn from this video? What are the characteristics based on the nature of a ram? Bam! Wow. Okay, that was tough. What did we learn from this video? First of all, we learned that rams are determined. In order to fight the way they do, and their fighting is mainly because of fighting for a female ram, they have to be determined. So this means that Aries Rashi will be determined as well. Also explosive. We saw that everything happens suddenly and with lots of power. So Aries can be that way, sudden, explosive, brutal. The way they hit their heads, that's brutal. That is pretty brutal. So again, Aries Rashi can have that nature of being brutal, which can lead Aries Rashi into the world of sports, and especially those that are pretty tough and brutal, like boxing. Also, these rams seem to be quite competitive. So Aries Rashi has that energy, provocative and unfriendly. Next, its places are the paths of goats and sheep, caves, mountains, hideouts of thieves, and fire, metals, mines, and jewels. So first of all of these words, places, say that Aries represents harsh, difficult, risky, dangerous, and unwelcoming places and activities. Now let's look more up close into the word metals. So what are metals and what do they do? Metals conduct electricity. Based on that, I say that Aries Rashi represents the expressing aspect of the creative energy. It allows the creative energy to come in and to be expressed. Or in a literal sense, Aries Rashi can make one work with metals. Now, let's zoom in into the word mines. And what is mining? Mining is the extraction of valuable geological materials. Based on that, we can either perceive it literally or symbolically, means that Aries Rashi has a proclivity to take as much as possible from life. I don't know how much you believe in the influence of astrology on animals, but I have 2 dogs, and one of the dog was born when the sun was in Aries. And wow, you should see him. The way he is able to take everything from every opportunity, from every moment. He never misses a chance. Never, to take as much as he can. And I contribute that to his sun in Aries. Now, jewels, let's look into this word. What is a jewel? So jewels originally are rocks, and these rocks have to overcome lots of heat, lots of pressure to become jewels. Symbolically speaking, Aries Rashi is about facing challenges in order to grow and become a better version of self. While in a literal sense, Aries Rashi can produce a jeweler. So that was all about Aries. Now we are moving into the second Rashi, Taurus, based on the description from Brihat, Parasara, Hora, Sastra. Taurus described. Its complexion is white and is lorded by Venus. It is long and is a quadruped sign. It has strength in night and resides in the south. It represents villages and businessmen. An earthy sign, Taurus rises with its back. Okay, again, we will dissect this description. And starting with the first sentence, its complexion is white and is lorded by Venus. Starting off with the first part. So complexion is the natural color, texture, and appearance of a person's skin. According to that, Taurus Rashi can give whiter or lighter skin tone, as well as appearance, like having a preference to wear white clothes or lighter clothes. Additionally, in color psychology, the white symbolizes purity, peacefulness, innocence, a mind like a clean slate, and minimalism. All of these words can be transformed into characteristics of Taurus Rashi. And I would like to focus a little bit on a mind like a clean slate. Based on that, we shouldn't expect from someone who has a dominant Taurus energy to be full of thoughts, full of thinking, and full of talking. Instead, they prefer to have a calm mind, nothing happening in the mind, and therefore they might not talk much or don't prefer talking a lot. And minimalism means that the energy is simple, and we will come to that again when we will continue exploring. And now talking about Venus. Okay, so again, the four fundamental factors about a planet. So just like Mars, Venus is a starry planet. Again, in other words, it looks like a star in the sky. And the starry planet helps us to gain and develop various attributes of self. Now, with Venus, we are talking about things like our capacity to be diplomatic, have tact, manners, be social, understand social situations, learn to look after of ourselves, take care of ourselves, in other words, make good and healthy decisions. Venus is related to artistry, artistic talents. So here are the few examples how Venus, being a starry planet, influences Taurus Rashi. Second, the form of Venus is bipedalism. Venus is bipedal. This means that Venus represents a human's consciousness, which seeks to find, create a greater meaning or long-term vision that would help to endure life. Previously, we saw with Mars that it was about just tackling with challenges, enduring, surviving, overcoming hardships. Now with Taurus, it's still about survival, but we're adding another layer, which comes through the consciousness of a human being. And this leads to generating a greater meaning, which would help to endure. Venus looks sideways, which means that it is looking for all kinds of options within the physical plane, what could be found in one's environment. So with Taurus Rashi, we can expect that the energy will be about searching for the best option, searching just in general, what's out there, what can I take, get, And lastly, Venus is a wet planet, thus it likes to have and give comfort to others. Also, this quality contributes to being more sensitive and compassionate towards others, as well as adaptable and easygoing. So with Taurus Rashi, we are finding quite the opposite from Aries. That Taurus is more gentle, soft, sensitive, cares about others and how the words, actions will affect others. And it likes comfort, receive comfort, give comfort. It is long and is a quadruped sign. Based on the house placement of Taurus, it can make a body part longer. For example, Taurus in the 12th house might produce bigger, longer feet because the 12th house represents feet. Based on the house placement of Taurus, it can prolong the journey of actualizing an aspect of one's life. So this is from another perspective about that it is long. So for example, Taurus in the 5th house could extend the journey of discovering or realizing one's true and authentic creative inspirations. I remember having a conversation a long time ago with someone who has a predominant Taurus energy in their birth chart. And then that person was just out of high school and she wanted to pursue with studying interior design, but she wanted to get into a university which is quite expensive and she didn't have the money for it. So she calculated that it will take at least 3 years to work, so then she could get into that university. And she was completely calm and fine about it. That's something that I remember when I think about Taurus being described as being long from a different perspective, not literal. Now, Taurus Rashi is 4-footed, which indicates that its energy is stable, firm, more reliable, and uncomfortable with changes. I'm sure you know if you have ever had a friend with a dominant Taurus energy that it's very hard to make them change their worldview, change their habits, anything. They are very stubborn and they don't want to change. It's quite uncomfortable. Remember, they're ruled by Venus. They like comfort. And change is the opposite of comfort. The description that it's a quadruped sign again tells that Taurus Rashi is still related to survival. It has strength in night and resides in the south. An earthly sign, Taurus rises with its back. So let's start with the first sentence and with the first part of the sentence. It has strength in night. What does that mean? It means that Taurus energy is more contemplative and dreaming, or passive, in other words. Now, talking about the south, stability and earth are connected to the south, which is considered a downward direction pointing towards the stable earth. This is a quote from Jyotishi Vikhara. Taurus, again, is a sign of stability, being grounded, firm. Also, the earth is solid. Thus, it represents reliability and practicality. So, Taurus Rashi is about being reliable and practical, solid. Earth is also fertile, so it can produce resources, beauty, and wealth. Taurus Rashi is related to being resourceful, gathering resources, beauty, and wealth. Because earth is solid, it endures. Afflictions to Taurus Rashi might cause issues with being stable, practical, resourceful, fertile, and feeling firm within oneself. Now, Taurus rises with its back. So again, just like with Aries Rashi, it means that it is inauspicious, and therefore the soil of Taurus Rashi is challenging, difficult, and pushing out of the comfort zone, even though Taurus Rashi doesn't like that. Next, it represents villages and businessmen. The idea of a village indicates that Taurus is related to simple people, villagers, as well as agriculture, farms, trading valuable resources among people, and providing for self and family. So remember, I was saying that because Taurus is a quadruped sign, it is still related to survival. Here we are learning in what sort of way, and it's in the way of being resourceful, having resources for the basic needs of life, like food, shelter, clothing, things like that. Now, if you add the word village with the word business, it equals rural tourism. So Taurus Rashi can contribute to one's path in life connected to rural tourism. Businessmen are people who work in commerce. They have something of value which they offer to others. This tells of the resourceful nature of Taurus Rashi. And from my many experiences with people with a dominant Taurus Rashi in their birth chart, they are extremely resourceful. They always have teas, cakes, jams, clothing, anything resourceful, anything that could be practically used. Mostly it comes from the earth. It's natural. And they have so much of it that they usually just give out to others. And this is, of course, coming from the Lordship of Venus, which is about giving to others, supporting others, taking care of others. Now, exploring Taurus based on the description from Yavanajataka. The second is said to have the shape of a bull. It is the mouth and throat of the Creator. Its places are those of forests, mountains, ridges, elephants, herds of cows, and farmers. Again, let's look at each sentence separately. Beginning with, the second is said to have a shape of a bull. So here I have a few quotes from Ryan Kurtzak. I heard them during my learning process in the apprenticeship program. Just like it is hard to push a bull, so it is with Taurus. It's hard to push them to move, to change. Again, the same theme is repeating. Bulls are very strong, steady, can pull heavy weights, are cautious, do not rush, and take time. Strong work ethics with Taurus energy. Also, something about the bull. A bull can open grooves of earth for sowing seeds. Based on that, Taurus is related to starting life in the physical realm, taking actual steps. It is the mouth and throat of the Creator. In medical astrology, Taurus can reveal health problems related to the mouth or the throat. From another perspective, in religious or mystical texts, one can often discover similar ideas, such as first there was a word, or first there was a sound. These ideas are used to describe the beginning of the creation of life. The throat and the mouth are the two body parts that enable any sound to be made. We humans most often produce sounds that form words. What is being revealed here? Taurus Rashi is related to bringing forth energy into a tangible and physical realm. And because it is the mouth and the throat of the creator, Taurus Rashi tells that creation in the physical sphere begins with speaking. This is also why many mystics are encouraged to observe really well what we say, what we speak, because that forms our reality. Also, the mouth is used for eating. The stars Rashi relates to the eating habits, food, and cooking. Its places are those of forests, mountains, ridges, elephants, herds of cows, and farmers. Now, forests, mountains, ridges indicate that Taurus Rashi has an introverted nature. It likes solitude because these places are not that populated by people. Also, getting on the top of the mountain or ridges can give a better view of the environment. And remember, Venus looks sideways. Venus rules Taurus. Therefore, Taurus Rashi is associated with the capacity to see far off and with the perception of the world. So someone with a dominant Taurus Rashi will plan their life far off, far ahead, will have a plan almost like for the rest of their lives. Similar to the example that I gave with the girl and her dreams to study interior design. Also, afflictions to Taurus might cause a narrow-minded or myopic view of the world. Speaking of elephants and herds of cow, these are livestock and was the main source of wealth back in the day. Once again, Taurus is described as a symbol of resourcefulness and wealth. Farmers are simple people with simple and practical needs who have strong work ethics and an enduring character. And this is what Taurus Rashi is about. So now we move on to the third Rashi, Gemini. Again, based on the description from Brihat, Parasara, Hora, Sastra. Gemini described. The sign Gemini rises with its head and represents a male and a female holding a mace and lute. It lives in the west and is an Aries sign. It is a biped sign as well and is strong in night. It lives in villages and is windy in temperament. It has an even body with green grass hue. Its ruler is Mercury. Wow, a lot to analyze, so let's begin. The sign Gemini rises with its head and represents a male and a female holding a mace and lute. So Gemini is a front rising sign, which is opposite from back rising, and therefore it is auspicious, has an auspicious quality, meaning that the soil of Gemini can manifest with more ease and grace. Additionally, since it rises with its head, it also indicates that Gemini tends to respond to life not immediately or based on instincts. Rather, it tends to think things through and then make a decision. A mace is a blunt weapon that can deliver powerful and deadly strikes. This is how Ryan Kurtzak has interpreted the symbolism of the mace and the lute. We need safety to explore our creativity. And I remember he was basing this on the fact that Gemini comes after Taurus. Taurus represents stabilizing our energy, gathering necessary resources for survival, attending to our natural needs, basic needs, which one of them is safety. And when we have that, we can transcend into Gemini, into the exploration of our creativity. Also, because it is both a male and a female, Gemini symbolizes balance of the masculine and the feminine. It lives in the west and is an Aries sign. The west is where the sun sets, opposite from the east. It symbolizes the end of the day, the end of work and responsibilities. And with that, a time for pleasure and relaxation. So Gemini is about pleasure and relaxation, as well as leisure time, which might include hobbies, personal interests, fun activities, time with friends, and doing things for one's own pleasure. Gemini Rashi belongs to the air element. This is what Dikara Jyotishi has said about the air element in his book, Radically Deep Fundamentals of Astrology. Air is pleasant and invigorating. Like a pleasant but fleeting breeze, it symbolizes things that are fun and exciting, but not very stable or reliable. Because it is invigorating, it makes us more alert and perceptive. I envision the air element as a young man roaming carefree from place to place, experiencing the pleasures of each and meeting new people. I think that wonderfully describes the energy of Gemini. Additionally, the air element is related to the mental sphere, so therefore, Gemini Rashi increases mental activity and represents activities that involve the thinking mind. It is a biped sign and is strong in nights. Gemini is two-footed Rashi, which gives an ability to be more adaptable, less fixed and stubborn. Moreover, bipedalism indicates that Gemini has the energy that allows one to move in different directions, or in other words, to explore different ways of expressing, living, thinking, and believing. And Gemini will always be very curious to discover new ways, new possibilities, new directions. Bipedalism allowed us humans to free up our hands, enabling them to create tools, also use hands for social purposes and communication. Therefore, Gemini symbolizes developing skills with our hands and learning how to communicate and create connections with others. Since Gemini is strong in nights, its energy is more passive and receptive, open to be guided and directed by others. It lives in villages and is windy in temperament. Again, a village is a place where people live, exchange goods and ideas, and spend time together. This indicates that Gemini is a social sign that enjoys conversing and doing things with others, hence it deals with commerce. Talking about the wind, there's a song, Wind of Change, by this group band Scorpions, which is literally about the wind bringing change. Usually when the seasons are changing, the wind blows stronger. Just like the wind, Gemini is a Rashi that deals with causing change or moving things out of fixation. And then the windy temperament also tells that the nature of Gemini is fast, pleasant, cool, refreshing, unsteady, non-committal, unreliable, constantly moving and changing. If you have ever encountered people with a dominant Gemini energy, you know that these people can't sit still. They're always active, always moving, always something is happening. It has an even body and green grass hue. Let's begin with the first part. Gemini can give a symmetrical and androgynous body or look, both aspects being a reflection of the internal balance and unification of the masculine and feminine, or the positive and the negative, light and shadow. Speaking about green grass hue in color psychology, because of its connection to nature, the green color symbolizes freshness, aliveness, harmony, balance, growth, and renewal. The green color tends to calm down and relax people, which also improves the mood. So this is tying in with the air element of Gemini, its connection to the west direction. Speaking again about Gemini being related to socializing, exploring our pleasures, having fun, focusing on leisure time, and that can be calming, relaxing, giving balance. Its ruler is Mercury. Again, the 4 factors about a planet. So Mercury is another starry planet, and starry planets help us gain skills and develop various attributes of self. With Mercury, we are speaking about skills in communication, skills in management, skills in networking, skills in our ability to express ourselves through the throat, through writing, learning how to be friendly, how to help others. So Gemini will have these qualities. The form of Mercury is represented by birds. The latter fly up high and see the world from a greater perspective, and in general can see a lot. First, this indicates that Gemini Rashi tends to look for all of the possible perspectives to see the whole picture. Second, this tells that Gemini is a curious sign that enjoys grasping as much as possible. Third, this aspect shows that the nature of Gemini is to be at constant search for the best opportunity, deal, friendship, situation, and alike. Mercury, like Venus, looks sideways, right? Sideways, which means that it is looking for all kinds of options within the physical plane, similar to the form. What could be found in one's environment? And also this factor is indicating that Gemini is not really consistent and stable. So someone with, let's say, Gemini in the 7th house of partnership might not feel ever fully settled with their partner. They might always have this internal looking sideways, this quest, maybe there's something better. And of course, this is very general, but I'm just giving an example. Lastly, Mercury is a moist planet. Planets that are moist are in between the wet and dry qualities, meaning that they are both able to be blunt and gentle, caring and aloof, compassionate and demanding. It all depends on the situation. So Gemini will act depending on the situation. Gemini based on the description from Yavanajataka. The 3rd is a couple, a man and a woman and a man holding a lyre and a club respectively. It is the region of the shoulders and arms of Prajapati. Its places are those of dancers, singers, artisans, and women, and places for playing games, sexual intercourse, gambling, and recreation. Start with the first sentence. The 3rd is a couple, woman and a man holding a lyre and a club respectively. It is the region of the shoulders and arms of Prajapati. So let's begin with the first part, which is very similar to what we discovered in Brihat Parasara, Hora Sastra. But now let's look at it from a different angle. So a club is a weapon. Like any weapon, a club requires one to develop skill in using it, especially with the hands. The same as with the lyre. I hope I'm saying this word right. To be able to play any instrument, one has to develop dexterity of their hands. This tells that Gemini is about developing skills that involve hands and that are either of masculine origin or feminine. So masculine, for example, fighting with weapons or working with metals. Feminine could be cooking, knitting, something like that. Now, in medical astrology, Gemini Rashi can indicate health problems related to one's shoulders, arms, and hands. In general, Gemini represents shoulders, arms, and hands. If Gemini is dominant in a birth chart, these regions of the body will be quite important. For example, professional swimmers need strong and dexterous shoulders, arms, and hands. Its places are those of dancers, singers, artisans, and women, and places for playing games, sexual intercourse, gambling, and recreation. So Gemini Rashi represents artistic people and artistic activities like dancing, singing, acting, performing, sculpting, drawing, and alike. Any sort of artistry is linked to Gemini. From the times of hunter-gatherers, women would get together to not only help each other out to maintain the tribe and its offspring, but also to talk, discuss, share ideas and experiences with one another. Thus, the symbol of woman once again refers to the social aspect of Gemini energy. Lastly, Gemini Rashi is related to activity done for enjoyment, when one is not working, which might include playing games, gambling, immersing in various forms of pleasure, and alike. And the last Rashi of today, Cancer. Based on the description from Brihat, Parasara, Hora, Sastra. Cancer described. The sign Cancer is pale red. It resorts to forests and represents Brahmins. It is strong in night. It has many feet and has a bulky body. It is sattvic in disposition and is a watery sign. It rises with its back and is ruled by the moon. Beginning with the first sentence, the sign Cancer is pale red. It has many feet and has a bulky body. Again, from the perspective of color psychology, pale red or pink is associated with so-called feminine traits, such as softness, kindness, nurturing, and compassion. So these are the characteristics of Cancer Rashi. The symbol of many feet indicates that Cancer Rashi is adaptable and more flexible. Moreover, the symbol relates to the ability to do many things at once. Cancer Rashi can produce a larger body or a body with more mass and a kapha constitution. In other words, Cancer gives a strong and firm body. It resorts to forests and represents Brahmins. I like to go into symbols, into words deeply. So this is what we will do now with the word forests and the word Brahmins, starting off with forests. And I would like to offer another perspective on this word, which is a combination of two words, for and rest. Based on that, a forest is a place for resting. The act of resting is passive. In essence, it's an act that pulls us back within, right? We're not out doing something. We're resting from the outer world. We are within. According to that, Cancer is a sign of introversion. And the word introversion comes from classical Latin, intro, which means within, and vertere, which means to churn. To churn within means introversion. When combining all of this, Cancer Rashi reveals itself as a symbol of the inner world. Also, Cancer Rashi teaches us about the importance of resting from the outer reality and of cultivating a relationship with the inner world. Now, let's explore the word Brahmins in relation to Cancer. Brahmins is a Sanskrit word that stems from Brahma. The root of the word Brahma is bruh, which means to grow, to expand. The knowledge of the root explains why it is a word which denotes to the creative principle or God. Brahmins is one of the 4 castes from the caste system of India that belonged to people who devoted their lives to learn and remember about how existence works and is created. Or in other words, they devoted their lives to God. Brahmins were mainly priests, full of knowing and thus able to advise and guide people. Based on all of this, Cancer Rashi is related to being greatly knowledgeable and thus able to counsel, teach, and guide others. It is strong in nights, it rises with its back, and is ruled by the moon. The nature of Cancer is more contemplative, dreaming, passive, and receptive. Again, the soil of Cancer Rashi, because it rises with its back, is inauspicious, therefore challenging. And the 4 factors of the moon in relation to Cancer. First of all, in the sky, we can see the moon as a planet, not as a star. Thus, it is a luminous planet. This refers to the moon being a planet of self-expression. So Cancer is related to self-expression, to the development of self. The form of the moon is represented by creeping animals. Such creatures are able to adapt and survive no matter what. Aries was about tackling challenges and surviving, overcoming sudden, dangerous situations. Taurus was more about having a greater meaning, creating a greater meaning. Now with Cancer, it's about adapting, changing, being flexible, and therefore surviving. The moon looks everywhere equally, thus enabling Cancer Rashi to see the bigger picture of life for any given situation. The moon is a wet planet like Venus, thus it likes to have and give comfort to others. Also, this quality contributes to being more sensitive and compassionate, as well as adaptable and easygoing. It is sattvic in disposition and is a watery sign. Again, quite a lot that we can learn from this description, beginning with it is sattvic in disposition. So sattva is one of the 3 gunas, which inform about the quality of one's action. Sattva guna has the quality of acting in a balanced and harmonious way. Also acting out of pure intentions and based on divine and true inspirations. Moreover, Sattva guna influences one to see the perfection of divine creation and thus accept and enjoy it as it is. So this is very different from Rajaguna, quite opposite. With Rajaguna, we believe that I'm the doer. With Sattva guna, we recognize that I'm a vessel. And I let the greater doer, God, divine energy flow through me. And I accept it. I understand that it's perfect. Now talking about the water element. Cancer Rashi belongs to the water element. And this is what Vigdikara has said about the water element. Water is deep, reflective, and soft. Since it is deep, it represents our interior depths, our mind and emotions. Since it is reflective, it represents introspection and self-awareness. Since it is soft, it symbolizes gentility and flexibility. I envision the water element as an intelligent woman looking at her reflection and contemplating her true feelings and identity. Beautifully said. I also added an analysis in relation to the water element. So Cancer Rashi equals water element. Water element equals internal waters. These equal emotions and feelings. And that leads to the capacity to form deep and emotionally intimate relationships with others and self. So this is what Cancer Rashi is very much all about. Now, Cancer from the perspective of the description from Yavanajataka. The 4th, which has the form of a crab standing in water and which is the region of the chest, is called Karki. To it belong meadows, wells, and sandy beaches, and its places are the pleasant playgrounds of goddesses. The fourth, which has the form of a crab standing in water. Again, let's dive deeper. Let's dive deeper with exploring the sentence. So first of all, on the outside, the crab has a hard shell and intimidating claws. But on the inside, there's no hardness, only softness and tenderness of various tissues. This tells that Cancer is very protective of its private nature, which is sensitive and gentle. Also, the fact that the internal self is shielded with hard parts speaks of feeling vulnerable. The word vulnerable stems from Latin vulnus, which means a wound. Based on this, when someone feels vulnerable, they feel that they can be wounded. In other words, attacked or harmed. From such feelings, the need to protect and shield arise. This whole analysis reveals that Cancer Rashi is about learning to feel safe, to express the inner nature out into the world. Water is a symbol of the emotions, as talked before, and since it is said that the crab is standing in water, it means that Cancer is in tune with emotions and feelings. Water can also be viewed literally, which would then indicate that Cancer Rashi is related to doing something in water, like surfing, swimming, or fishing. Which is the region of the chest is called Karki, and Karki is a Sanskrit word for Cancer. Again, let's dive a bit deeper. And here I would like to offer a perspective from body language, from the science of body language. So body language experts put a lot of emphasis on the chest area of a person because it is where the most important organ dwells, the heart. According to body language experts, the more the chest goes inwards or is covered by some sort of objects like hands, books, backpacks, and alike, the more it is indicative that the person doesn't feel safe within themselves and in the world. In reverse, the more the chest is wide open and exposed, the more confident one feels. Now let's explore the word confident to truly understand the whole symbolism of chest about Cancer. So the word confident stems from Latin confidere, which means to have full trust. According to that, Cancer Rashi is not only about growing into feeling safe within oneself, but also developing a sense of trust. A sense of trust in others, but much more in oneself. Developing trust in myself that I will be able to differentiate people and their intentions, and my capacity in setting clear boundaries and standing up for myself. All right, so Cancer is about developing internal safety and trust in oneself. From another perspective, the chest area refers to the female's breast, which can feed an offspring. This tells that Cancer Rashi can be quite focused on nurturing, giving support, and in that way helping others grow. Lastly, to it belong meadows, wells, and sandy beaches, and its places are pleasant playgrounds of goddesses. Lots of symbols here. Let's explore. Meadows, wells, and sandy beaches. Let's start with that. These are all places associated with water. Wells being a source of water, beaches meaning the sea, and meadows often being lush and green thanks to nearby water. These watery imageries reflect the watery energy of Cancer, and beaches in particular resonate with the emotional nature of Cancer Rashi due to the ebb and flow of tides. Based on that, we can also expect Cancer Rashi to be not so stable, not so consistent, especially from within. Or from another perspective, expect Cancer Rashi to be full of life because it reflects the heartbeat, which enables us to be alive. And the heartbeat, when it's alive, when the heart is alive, the heartbeat goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Whereas when the heart is dead, not functioning, it's not moving. So Cancer, similar to Aries Rashi, will be full of life and excitement for life and have an inner world full of liveness. Now, talking about goddesses. A god is a creator. A goddess is a creator in a feminine form. And remember, Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is the archetype of the mother. In other words, the goddess. This means that Cancer Rashi is also an indicator of the mother's archetype or energy. The latter is nurturing, caring, protective, and deeply connected to loved ones. The imagery of nurturing, watery landscapes and the presence of goddesses beautifully mirrors the emotional depth, nurturing nature, and desire for comfort and beauty of Cancer Rashi. It's like the quote paints a picture of the kind of environment where a Cancerian soul might feel most at peace and at home. To conclude, I would like to share the sequence, how each sign progresses, one after another. So we begin with Aries, and Aries in a general fashion represents the birth of I, and the potential of the reality experienced through the identity of I. Then the energy progresses into Taurus, which is about grounding, stabilizing the I by gathering necessary resources through the body in the physical realm. After that, we progress into Gemini, which is about learning and developing skills required to actualize the envisioned reality of the I. And then with Cancer, it is all about integration, introspection, and reflection of the entire unfoldment of the I. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the exploration of the 4 Rashis. Thank you for watching. I hope this will be helpful for you, and I hope to see you in my next videos. Take care.